Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video I will cover the prototype or the structure of Anchor program in Solana. Because in beginning it is bit confusing like where to write and how to write in Anchor program. Actually in Anchor framework. So in Anchor framework we have like multiple macros available, so people who are like new to this Anchor framework, they got confused like in means where what macros to use and where like we have to call them. So there are like some basic macros available which I will cover up in the video because there are like more than 20-30 macros are there in Anchor framework. So I will not explain them all. I will explain like 3-4 macros which are very basic and which are used mostly in many of the smart contract or program which we write using Anchor framework. So this sample smart contract or Solana program I have taken, so it is being written in Solana using Anchor framework. So the very first line or the very first things will be your import statement. If you want to like import some of the packages in your program, so that you can use via use a keyword. So it's a Rust import. So you can use that. So if you want to import like one or two or many, like so likewise you can write more, like whatever you want to import. Thereafter, we have one macro named as declare ID. So in this macro, you have to write the program ID. Okay, because what happens like in the production environment, when you deploy this program and when somebody is calling it, so they actually check like whether the program ID which they are calling, whether that is matching with this program ID or not. Okay, so only the user who has this program ID available, so they will only be able to call this program. So that actually make it secure. Then we have one more macro known as has program. So has program is a macro where we can define our program or smart contract. So after has program we have to write this mode keyword and the program name counter. So it is like class. It is like very like we have class in Java. So this is like a class. So in class we have some import statement. We can have any number of functions. So here in this example, we have written two functions. One is the initialize method. The other one is the increment method. So likewise we can have any number of method in our program based on our requirement. So if you want to write any function in Anchor framework, so that you will write inside has program. So after has program, you have to write mode and then your program name. It can be anything like like counter, like whatever. Like we have token program there, so they have written mode token program. We have system program there, so they might have written mode system program. So similarly, you can name like any. It will be basically your program name. And after that, your function. Like if your smart contract have three function or three endpoint, okay, or four function or four endpoint, so those functions will come over here. So inside this function, if you see here, we have pub stand for public, fn is for function, keyword for function, and then we have this function name initialize. So this function in Anchor framework actually takes context object as an input. So in this context object, what we have to do, we have to pass on the number of account basically. So this context is of initialized type. It means it is expecting some of the account. So what account it is expecting? It can have like one account, two account, three account, four account. So that we have to specify somewhere. So for that we have one more macro has drive account. Okay. So inside has drive account you have to specify initialize. So this initialize we are taking it from here. And in initialize we will define like how many account we have to pass when we are calling this method initialize method from this program counter. So if somebody from the front end or using web3.js is calling your initialize method from this program, then he has to pass on some account for this context. Okay. And what are those account? Those account would be this. Okay, so when we are calling, we have to pass one counter account, one authority account, and one system program. And authority account will be your signer. So if suppose if we are calling this function, initialize function of this counter program, and the account which we are passing is not matching with this list, then it will throw an error. Okay, so this is how we are like putting a cap on our function. because if the number of account or the list of account is not matching with with these number of account, then it will throw an error. Okay, so this is how the anchor is helping us to define the number of account in advance. So people who are like calling or using this function or endpoint, so they have to pass this account. Okay, so end to end lifecycle will be like, if suppose I'm calling this initialize function, I'll make sure like I'll pass all these function along with this start variable. Okay, so it is expecting two things. One is the context object, the other one is the start variable. So I need to pass two things. One is the account list. What will be the what will be there in the account list? These account basically the counter account, the authority account, and this is a program. And apart from account list, I need to pass the start variable. Okay, so once the account list and the start variable is matching, then it will enter into this function and it will like execute line by line. This OK keyword is for success. Means if there is no error, then this function will return success. If it is error, then it will return error. Okay, so this OK keyword is nothing. It is basically to send success if there is no error. We have one more keyword. This is has account. Has account is for basically to provide structure to an account. So we have one account named counter. So whenever we are telling like this account will be of type counter, then it will actually create two variable in that account. One is the authority and the other one is the count. Authority will be of type public key and count will be of type U64. Okay. So account, like in my previous video, I have explained account are nothing but like a file. So if we are telling like there will be some account which will be of type counter, then automatically, like here, if you see counter is of type counter, right? So this counter is nothing but this counter. So we are telling this counter to be created by Solana, and in that account we are going to store these two variable. Okay, so this is how actually the complete life cycle is. Like for example, means from the beginning, if I repeat, we have declare ID macro where we define our actual program ID. Then we have hash program. It is basically to write your functions or to write your program or smart contract. Then using mode keyword, we define our program name, and then we have any number of function or any number of endpoint. And how the endpoint will be written, we have public. If you want to keep your endpoint public, then this keyword, and this function always takes the context object. Okay, in context object we define like what number of account we are passing. So that struct account or the list of account you have to pass by using hash drive account, then public struct, and then the context object name. So here we have context initialize. So we have defined hash drive account for struct initialize. Similarly for increment we have context increment. So we have defined struct increment inside hash drive account, and we are telling like it is supposed to get receive two account, counter and authority will be of signer. Okay, and here, if you see counter, we are telling counter will be of type counter. What is this counter? This counter is an account, has account. So we are telling you like what counter will contain. Counter account will contain two things: authority and count. So this is like the high level picture of a program using Anchor framework. When I was like writing my first program in Anchor, I was a bit confused with these macros, and because uh, it is like tricky, because if you have no idea about Solana or Anchor framework, then it is very difficult to map these things like what is context object, why what initialize is doing, why we are writing HDF account. So here I have tried to explain like how the things are related or map. Okay. So within lib.rs, you have seen why means in my last video when I have created our first Anchor project. So inside Anchor project, you will get this lib.rs under program. If you see here, we have program src and lib.rs. So lib.rs is a file where you actually write a smart contract code. And inside the smart contract code, if it is a Anchor framework, this is how the structure will be. This code is fine. This we will cover later. But on the higher level, like how the execution will be, we have declare ID as a macro. We have hash program. We have hash program as a macro. Then we have mode keyword. Then we are defining the program. Then what is context object? What actually it is expecting when we are calling this initialize? It is expecting basically this number of account. We have to pass these account basically. So once Means when we call, then it actually check the list of account when we are calling this initialize function. If it is matching with this list, then it will enter into this function and it will run your program line by line. If there is no error coming, then it will return success for this particular endpoint or function. Okay, so this is a very high level picture of Anchor program. In my next video, I will explain a, a, a video where I will transfer Solana from one account to a PDA. Okay, so there I will not explain the structure because I have already explained this structure. So it will be easier to understand the program. So I will do a demo and I will even commit my code in the GitHub and I will pass on the GitHub repo also. Like you can go through and you can do some hands-on. But that I will do in my next video. So hope you have liked this video. See you in my next video. Thank you so much. Bye.